Hey there, I'm Alan Furstenberg,
And I'm Mark Tucker, and welcome to Two Voice Devs.
Two Voice Devs. Hey there, Mark. You know what's happening next week?
I am so excited. It's been a long time since I've been to an in-person conference, and we're speaking. We'll get to see each other face to face
Together,
again.
we're speaking together. This is going to be great.
Yes.
And we'll be doing Two Voice Devs live and in person at the Voice Summit in Arlington, Virginia next week. I am so looking forward to this.
And it's Tuesday. It's during lunchtime. So just grab your lunch, join us, come with questions, and we'll just kind of chat and we'll do a what we're doing here, but with some of our closest
people.
friends. Yes.
No, I think it's going to be fun. And, it's really, I was thinking about this, about how, this, we started this, over 2 years ago now.
I
And it
know,
was,
crazy.
I know. And it was kind of this effort on our part to get the message out, help developers understand what they were doing and how to do things and how to tackle this new voice world. And I know you as a champion and me as a GDE, this is something that's really very normal for us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Is that it's not just that we like doing this stuff, we love doing this stuff, but that we want to talk about it. We want to get the word out. We want to help other people doing this stuff. And I'm kind of curious, how did you get started in wanting to help other people doing this stuff? How have you done this before?
Oh, wow. Well, things have kind of changed over the years.
Yeah.
We have social media and video and podcasts. Now we have conferences now. We've had conferences in the past too, but there were blogs before that, and before that there were print publications. I'm talking about magazines.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Magazines
and
and books, those were the days.
so let me show you this. This is my very first foray into getting paid to write an article, and it is Visual Basic Programmers Journal, February 1998.
Nice.
The
Very
cover
nice.
the cover story is multi-threading build responsive apps. So at the time I was a Visual Basic developer, and I had done some things with multi-threading, but you couldn't really do multi-threading in Visual Basic, but you could set up situations where multi-threading occurred. And I just kind of had figured some of that stuff out. And I just out of the blue happened to, I felt like, hey, this would be really cool. I'm going to write up an article. And I just sent it to Visual Basic Programmers Journal. I didn't know anything about how to do this. I just saw where, something in the cover here, and I went ahead and sent it off. And it just so happens that that was going to be the title topic of their upcoming magazine. And so worked on it with there was another kind of a key anchor article for this that was written by another programmer. And so got to collaborate really quick, kind of over a weekend, and make some changes and stuff. But that was my first paid article that I got to write, and I did some more since then. I don't know. Have you published anything in a like a magazine before?
I have actually. My first publication was back in the late 80s. There was a magazine for educators working with Apple computers called A Plus Magazine. And
Oh,
I have a
yeah.
copy somewhere, not in my office. And I wish I knew exactly where the copy was now. And at the time, the computer teacher in my high school had set up a bulletin board system. And okay, let me take a step back. For
I was going to
those of
say,
you
do
that
we
don't
need to
know,
explain bulletin board systems to people
for those of you that don't know what a BBS is,
before the internet?
before the internet, or before the internet was as popular
Well,
as it
yeah,
was now.
generally available. Yeah.
We had computers that were dial-in systems, and people would be able to dial into one of these bulletin board systems and usually do things like post messages in themed area. In some ways, it's like a forum, what we would call a forum these days.
Yeah.
But we ran one on the school's bulletin board system, and the particular system in question had a programming language behind it, so you could extend it and do stuff. So my best friend and I were both programmers, and we learned this language and learned how to modify the system to do all sorts of stuff. So we could leave short messages for people, or instead of the long forum posts.
Yep.
Or we had some little interactive game type stuff that we had designed and were running on it. And our computer teacher saw what we were doing, encouraged us, got us running the system. We were the system administrators, sysops, system operators, and worked with us to write an article about our experience.
Excellent.
And it was actually kind of weird, because the way we wrote the article was, we were also collaborating. We set up a file that both of us were typing into at the same time, and our modems were swapping the information back and forth. So we were watching each other edit it, and at the same time we were on another line talking to each other. So that was weird and unusual, and clogging up all the house phone lines. But we wrote this article, and our teacher heavily edited it, but we got writing credit for it. It was an experience.
That is pretty awesome. Got a resume builder even before you left high school.
Yeah. So it was, and I think not just a resume builder, but it also got me realizing that this was important. It was important to help people understand what we were doing and why we were doing these sorts of things and how we could do these sorts of things, And when you're talking about it in an educational magazine, you're talking about, well, okay, it's not just, hey, these two, high school students were doing something. It's also, well, what did they get out of it? What have they learned?
Yeah.
What is this process let you teach other people, teach other kids? What else can kids learn by doing this? And that was, I think that was the eye opener to me to realize, we don't need to be operating in a vacuum. We can do stuff and share what we're doing. Yeah,
and it was nice to get paid. I don't know. I think maybe I got paid $500, but that was actually pretty big back at the time. But that really wasn't the main reason I was doing it. I kind of got hooked on wow, I can share something that I've learned to a wider audience.
Yes.
And back then it was kind of hard to get a lot of feedback back. You can get too much feedback now on social media, but back then it was kind of hard to get feedback. But it was still satisfying knowing that you kind of like you solved something, you kind of cracked some nugget, and you figured out something, and then you were able to articulate that in writing in a way that somebody who was new to it you could kind of jump into it, and they could leave the experience knowing something that they didn't know before. Yeah.
No, one of the things I found, that I learned from it is that, okay, once we did is I started learning, hey, lots of people were doing this.
Yeah.
This wasn't my corner of the universe. There were lots of people that were doing this. There were lots of people that learned from it and built on that. And that I think is important is, once you put something out there, other people can and will and should build on top of that. And that's how we improve things.
Exactly. And to be honest, I kind of got hooked. So I did write a second article for Visual Basic Programmers Journal on how to create an add-in manager for Visual Basic. So you could write these little add-ins and do things. And then later I started writing for National Genealogical Magazine. I did a whole series of different articles on, this was about the last lecture, Randy Pausch, but how that related to genealogy, kind of some of the lessons I learned from that. This is big. The Twittering Genealogist, part 1 and part 2,
Ooh.
because Twitter was new back then, and I was doing genealogy research. And then this last one was all about the 100 years of scouting and kind of how you do genealogical research for the Boy Scouts. So those were kind of some of the things that I had done, and kind of always in the back of my mind was I'd like to write a book on something, but then that kind of just sat dormant for a long time. But you've written a book.
I have written a book. You can see the cover of it's always there. I happen to have one with me though.
So what animals on the cover?
The animals on the cover, and they're common finches. They're common finches in India. There's nothing endangered or anything about them. But they have a beautiful song, if I remember correctly. But yeah, there's nothing terribly special about the cover, but it is an O'Reilly book.
And that is I don't know if you may not know this, but that is totally impressive to me. Growing up, that was kind of like I'd love to be able to write a book and have it published by O'Reilly. That was really
so here's
really
kind of the
awesome.
story behind. So here's the story behind that is as glass is becoming a big thing, and this is actually feeds into part of it as well. Is that as the speculation about glass had been building. They hadn't released it yet. They had talked about how they were going to have developers for it, and there was a developer hackathon that was going to be coming up. And as part of that, I started running a bunch of YouTube sessions with other developers that I knew.
Yep.
I think I was a GDE by that point already. And we started, speculating, okay, what do we think this is going to be like? What would programming for glass be like? And this was all speculation at this point. But one of the people I collaborated with on those projects was named Jason Salas, and he's a news reporter in Guam. So so he would be up at very different times than I would. We had very, very different time zones. But once Glass launched and we got to see what the API was like, and we got to see what questions people were having and the problems people were having and the assumptions people were making, I was helping out on Stack Overflow, but Jason and I started talking and we said, you know what? This merits a book. We think this is big and different, and it's something that really does merit a book being out there. And we kind of explored the options. We said, well, how do we publish a book? Because we've never written or published a book before. So we kind of poked around the different publishers that we knew to see what did they say about, almost all of them had so you think you want to write a book, huh? Type page. And we looked at all of them and we said, you know what? We've got two options, basically. The first is we write the book and we self-publish on Amazon. Because that was a relatively new option then, but it was a real option. Or we reach out to O'Reilly. Because O'Reilly, as you said, it has the name, it has the prestige.
Yep.
And do we want to reach out to any of the others? Well, no, not really. If we're gonna put all the effort into it, we wanted to do it either totally on our own or with the best in the business.
Yeah.
And we reached out to O'Reilly and they asked for a summary outline and some samples of how we might want to say some things. So we did. And they said, okay, go ahead and write it. They gave us a little bit of feedback on what the structure should look like. Our editor was very hands-off, actually. There was not a lot of, I need another chapter next week and reviewing each chapter. There was certainly some editing and there was certainly some making sure we were sticking to a deadline. But there was not a lot of standing over our shoulder every step of the way. They had tools that they required us to do it in. And one of the things Jason and I very quickly got into was we weren't going to write it using their tools. We wrote it using Google Docs. And once we were satisfied with the chapter, he would convert it into their tool format, which is a variant on Markdown.
Okay.
Which these days would be a lot easier, but
yeah.
wasn't then. And a lot of our editing would be, at 6 a.m. as I'm waking up and he's going to bed, we would, cross paths and spend half an hour or an hour editing together. And then in between, we would be working on our own. Or, if I was driving somewhere and I suddenly had an idea, I would send him a text message using Glass saying, hey, I figured out how to handle this thing we've been dealing with on chapter 8. So there was a lot of collaboration, a lot of back and forth. And it was really exciting when the book itself was published. I got to tell you, there are very, very few things that are like that feeling when you get a box in the mail and it's the first 10 copies of your book.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I can imagine.
Well, I saw you were self-publishing a book. I saw.
Yes. I have a couple of questions before I get into that.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions for you. So how long did that process take of you both of you collaborating kind of from, yes, we're going to do this on O'Reilly to the, we finally got the last edits in?
I want to say it was about 9 months, maybe closer to a year. I honestly don't remember anymore.
Yeah.
It seems, at one point, I feel like we were saying, yeah, we can get this done in 2 months. And that was a bigger, foolish assumption. Because once I think we actually started getting into what we wanted to say and how we were going to say it, it expanded. And the size of the book expanded. It was originally supposed to be a very small book.
Right.
And it came in much larger than we first thought. And I think a large part of that was because we were trying to explain very different concepts, very different programming concepts than people had been used to before.
Yeah, and it was brand new. Yeah, because it's just like, okay, we've got this new device, and you can
Right.
program it, and it's
right. And I one of the things that it's interesting for me to think about is it's called designing and developing for Google Glass. So we were covering what we would now think of as, interface design.
Yeah. Because
we had to, because it was a totally foreign subject then.
Right.
Nowadays, if I were to write a book on programming for voice, yes, I'd probably have a chapter that talked about designing, and then I would reference, Kathy Pearl's book, or I'd reference, Rebecca's book, or, there are a bunch of books that are out there that I could say, here's where you should go look for more details.
Yeah, here, let me whet your appetite on the idea of designing for voice, but
right.
Go talk to the experts on that.
Right. Here's what you should know to be literate on
right.
design, but don't think you know everything there is to know about design from this.
Well, and I think that's an important point. Even as developers, we need to know something about design, even if we understand kind of where the boundaries are, because sometimes we have to cross over and sometimes designers have to kind of cross. So the boundary is not like a very thin, line. Right. It's kind of it's a, kind of a zone where sometimes you're in that zone, sometimes you're out and you're kind of collaborating back and forth. So, I think that's, you need to understand at least a little bit about design to even know what you don't know about.
Right.
Design.
And I think we've talked about this in a bunch of other episodes, which is, which is important that, you not be, well, it's 2 things. One is you not be ignorant of that there needs to be a design process.
Yeah.
but also that you don't think that you are the best person to go through that design process.
Yes, developers respect the designers.
Yes, yes.
All right, so that's good. So overall, are you happy with the process? Kind of did you enjoy writing a book? Would you do it again?
Writing? Let me put it this way, and I think every author, certainly every technical author that I've talked to has kind of expressed the same set of feelings, is that it was an absolute nightmare. It was grueling. And at the end of it, I'm not sure I would have wanted to do it again, but I want to do it again.
Yeah.
There's something about it.
Yeah, and that's interesting what you said about editors too. So your editor, somebody that was from O'Reilly, that was dedicated to this process of facilitating. It could be anything from formatting to approach, content to approaches to just kind of somebody to guide you through the process and help. When I was writing magazine articles, there was an editor that I worked with as well. And so I would submit something and then I would get feedback, not very often. There were some cases, I guess, maybe like 90% everything went through fine, but then there were still some sort of modifications and edits. And you're like, oh, for format, or we need to cut this down for the number of pages possible, or, just things, but somebody to help you through. So from the time that I wrote articles to just recently, I've kind of always had it in the back of my mind, like, oh, I should write a book. I'd like to write a book. It could be anything. Should it be a kid's book? I'm not really a nonfiction writer, a fiction writer. I can do technical writing, but I can't like short stories. That's
you're not out to write the great American novel here.
I'm not. Oh, no, I could not. I could probably not even write the great American first sentence to a book.
It was a dark and
yeah.
Anyway.
And yeah, so I can't even like finish that sentence. It's just not, but I found other outlets to, so that I created open source projects or samples on GitHub and shared that out. Became involved on social media, LinkedIn, on Twitter.
And I want to point out your documentation, for every one of your projects that I've worked with has been excellent.
Thank you.
And some of that I realize is the experience, but I'm sure some of it also was learning those lessons from the editor way back when. Yeah. About describing the project and telling people what they need to do and taking them by the hand. And
yeah, you have to kind of assume that you want to give them an overview, but you want to get in as soon as you're possible, but you can't overwhelm them with details. But you want to provide the details later on. There's just a number of different things. So, but creating a Alexa meetup, speaking at conferences, speaking at like local code camps here in the Phoenix area. So just wanting to share things that I've learned with other people. It's just become part of who I am as a developer.
And the same thing, I don't remember when I first started actually speaking about developing. It was probably for some Google Plus stuff, actually. But I think I very quickly realized that, standing up there and showing slides and talking about them is very different than answering questions or writing articles. Yeah. It's very different and it's very exciting, and it's a challenge to do in a lot of ways. And again, going back to the Voice Summit, both you and I are going to be speaking at the Voice Summit. Aside from at Two Voice Devs, we each have separate presentations that we're doing that are about some topic and are going to be about helping, in a very short amount of time, getting across a message.
Right.
And that's tough.
It is tough, and I guess maybe I want to take this moment. I've had times where I've seemed very confident up in front talking. There's other times where I've been quite literally like, oh my gosh, can I even get these words out? It's not easy, and it might be intimidating to some people, but I would encourage you, if you have the desire to try it, to at least try it. And I take some comfort in knowing that some people that I know that I consider friends, even if they're just friends from social media that I haven't met in person yet, I feel like I've got a support network that worst case I can find Ellen in the audience and talk to him about it. But
that's a great way to approach it. Yeah. Is that you're not necessarily speaking to the crowd, you're speaking to one person out there. Maybe you know them and maybe you don't, and it doesn't really matter because you're speaking to one person.
We all have different perspectives on things, and we have different experiences, and we've approached things differently. We're all unique, and so maybe there's some concept that I could have tried to study out myself, but then I go to a conference session and somebody else is able to talk about it in a way that I'm like, oh, I didn't make that connection before. That's really pretty cool. Or, okay, now I understand this. And so I guess if you feel like you don't know enough, or if you feel like you feel intimidated about the whole process, but you still kind of feel like, oh, I'd really like to do this, or I think maybe possibly I want to do this, I encourage you to try it.
Definitely.
It might make sense to find a smaller conference that's local, and not start out on the big stage, so to speak.
Or just a user group.
Yep.
Or there are lots of little forums like that. I would totally agree with that. And two probably more than two, but two first thoughts that I had to that. The first is that there are also, it goes to a message that I think you and I have been talking about since the beginning, and that's that you belong in this community.
You do.
Whatever
100%.
You have to contribute, your contributions are welcome and valuable.
Yep, you matter as an individual and as a contributor.
Yeah. And the second, I'm going to have another one after this. The second is, if you want to do this and you're not sure how to begin, reach out to somebody else. Yeah. Go to one of these small presentations and watch the presenters there. And then afterwards, go to somebody and say, I'd love to do that. What tips do you have? Can you help me craft my presentation? Because almost certainly most people are more than happy to do it. And most organizers of these presentations would be so thrilled to have somebody talk. They will help you as much as they can. And the third is that, and if you don't want to go speak, that's fine too.
That's totally fine too.
It's totally fine. Not everybody wants to speak. Not everybody needs to speak to get their message out. We have a lot of other ways to get messages out. Record a video and do a podcast. Come on this show.
Contribute to open source software. Yep.
Post a bunch of tweets in a thread. Answer questions on Stack Overflow. There are all sorts of ways that you can be part of the community, or do none of those. Publish open source. Contribute, or just be part of this group. There are lots of ways that you can contribute. And all of them are very, very valuable. So find the thing that calls to you.
Yeah, and I will say that I probably am going to be nervous before my presentation. It's been 2+ years since I've done a presentation live. And I'm a little apprehensive about going out into a conference environment, but I really I don't know. I just really want to be there this year. So
Right. I think this is the right crowd too. This is the right crowd and it's the right time, I think.
yeah. So know your boundaries. I guess two other tips on speaking. One, know your own boundaries. There are people that are fantastic at live coding. That scares me to death. I can go, I can open up a code editor and walk through code that I've written and explain different parts. I'm comfortable doing that. But like starting with an empty editor and typing things up and remembering the syntax in the moment, and then it's trying to compile and it doesn't work, and you're like, oh, that's not for me. So know your boundaries and just work within within your boundaries. Slides. So my presentation on Wednesday, I have 20 minutes. You cannot get through 40 slides in 20 minutes. You may not even be able to get through 20 slides in 20 minutes. You only think, oh, that's only 20 minutes and that's a minute per slide. That's a lot of time, but it goes by quickly. And so part of it is scoping it and paring it down to the time that you have.
And I think as part of that is it's also fine to practice. You really should practice,
Yes.
Not just, flip through slides saying, yeah, I'm going to say this. Yeah, I'm going to say this. Yeah, I'm going to say this. One of the things that I do a lot of is, I'll turn my phone on and, set it down, point it at me, and go through my presentation and time it. And then I'll watch my presentation, which is really, really difficult.
Yeah. I had this video where I played it fast forward and I kept going like this with my glasses. And I was just like, oh my gosh, But and so now I'm doing ums.
You know how many ums I have to edit out of this video every week, and I leave most of them in.
So that's what I do. But I actually stand up. I have my slides. I have my clicker, so I automatically can advance through my slides, and I just give the presentation. And I fumble through it for the first few times. But then I kind of find my wording, because even though I'm writing the slides and my wording is on the slides is my own words, sometimes when I'm trying to present that, it's like, oh, that's not as easy to say as it is what I was thinking, and so try to find some balance on that. But just some tips. But that's about speaking. Your question minutes ago, which I have delayed,
was you have done other work besides speaking and articles, and you just published a book.
I did just self-publish a book, and so let me tell you about that story. Like I say, I've wanted to publish something like an actual book, something longer than like a 10-page article, and so I've thought about a number of different things, and I have some ideas, but what typically happens with my ideas is that they're too big. And I'm like, this is where I want to be, and this is what I want to do. This is my big idea. And but that was too big. What I wanted, I was like, well, what can I take from this bigger idea and make it smaller? Because really the thing that I want to figure out right now is how hard is it to self-publish through Amazon? That was kind of my experiment. So I thought about it. Some of the work that I did with my Alexa skill that's no longer out in the wild, called Number Spies, was how do you encode and decode messages, and how do you use a checkerboard and a code book and a one-time pad and kind of that whole process. So I already had some content that I kind of generated, and I had to change the format and stuff. But what ended up happening, probably with less than 20 hours worth of work over 2 weekends, I was able to self-publish a book called Number Spies Red Book, and it's available on Amazon. It's a print-only book because it's got a couple of pages where it's talking about spy message encoding, and then the rest of the book was actually generated. So I got to do like a little program that would generate random number tables for my one-time pads, make sure that they were unique and in the right format. And then I was able to use some API to actually take an input file, which is a Word document with some like templating, formatting things, and write the rest of the book. So it's got 50 one-time pad sheets that are unique for encoding and decoding messages, and probably about 10 pages up front besides that. And was able to write that in Word and convert that to a PDF, make sure I embedded the fonts, and uploaded that to Kindle Direct Publishing. And I could write an ebook. That's part of the process, and depending on your book, it doesn't necessarily make sense for this book that I'm writing. Part of the reason is that I want it to be tactile, like you're a real spy holding this code book. But
this code book that says code book on the front of it.
It does say code book on it. And so that part, it took a number of different cycles through the kind of the review, wait 72 hours, get some feedback that wasn't quite clear on why it failed, and not even really realizing that it had failed. And then I thought I was continuing on, but then I resubmitted it for review.
So some technical problems.
There were some technical, I would think, user experience design issues with KDP. It wasn't my
going back to the design problem.
Yeah, exactly. So and then the cover was kind of interesting. I was able to design my own cover using some of the same branding that I did for Number Spies. That one is kind of a head scratcher because I had it in a PDF format and I had to convert it into a PDF so I could upload this PDF of this image of this cover. It's weird. That part I don't agree with. I don't know why I couldn't just upload the PDF, but
okay.
It wasn't that hard. It goes through a review process, and you can pre-order like draft copies of it if you want. I just decided to go for it. So it's out in the store. I went ahead and bought a copy. It'll be here tomorrow, so I'll actually get to hold it.
Oh, that's fun.
And I'm just kind of excited about it. It's nothing earth-shattering, but it's kind of the book that I would have liked as a kid when I was keeping my own notebook of different ways to encode and decode messages. So kind of next to that, I'm going to work on a website and a Twitter account specifically for Number Spies and things like that. But I've got some things that I'm still working on with it. But I'm kind of the feeling that everybody should self-publish one book. It doesn't have to be anything really big, but everybody's got something that they know that could be in book form. And I think if nothing else, just to be able to create it and get it and see it, and I don't know, it's an accomplishment to
no, that's a good point. We've all got something to say, and this is a good way to get it. This is one great way to actually get it out there.
Yeah. So you can create various different types of puzzle books, or if that's your hobby, or facts about a certain thing. I think there's lots of different things, and the fact that I was able to scope it to something small enough. In the end, I think it's 111 pages, but you could get something smaller, 50 pages or less, and self-publish it. And I still think there's a big win in that. It's a confidence booster. It's something you can add to your resume that you're an author, if that's important to you. And I don't know. I just encourage you, if you've got some questions, just ask them on Twitter, and I'll do my best to answer what the process is and keep you up to date on how things are going. Or
they could find you next week in Arlington, Virginia at the Voice Summit.
Yes. So if you are at the summit, would love to have you attend our sessions, or either our live podcast or our individual presentations that we're doing, or just grab you in the hall and just talk. Would love to meet a lot of you and just get to know you better. That'd be cool.
One of the greatest things about conferences isn't the presentations, but go to the presentations, especially ours. It's the hallway track. It's the running into people. It's the spontaneous conversations that we have, at lunch and between sessions and so forth. So I certainly hope that we see plenty of you there. I'm looking forward to some great conversations.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be able to turn around the recording quickly. And if not, we will have a summary of how our take on the conference within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It's just crazy. It's just a few weeks away now from the time that we're recording this. Next week, when you hear this, we'll be in DC and Arlington area, and just love to see you. So thank you. Thanks for listening.
And we will see you next time on Two Voice Steps.
Two Voice Steps. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Have a great week, Mark.
Thank you. You too, Alan.